Scheduled meeting, Board of Fire Commissioners. Date is November 6th, and the time is about 9:05.
Let the record reflect Commissioners Ibata Hara, Woods Grare President. We have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. Flag salute, members.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence in honor of past and present members of the Los Angeles Fire Department who devoted their lives to the protection of our community. Thank you.
And we start, as always, with Commissioner comments.
Do you want to talk about the ballot?
So actually, a number of us, President Ibata and Commissioner Nimberg and Commissioner Woods Grare and I, we attended the Valor Awards luncheon, and it was a phenomenal event. I thought very inspiring, and to see. I know Rebecca was thrilled by the fact that the girls' camp and to see Alicia Welch come back and Chris Larson and then Captains Hall and Wilcox also being honored. That was great. Of course, the LAFD Foundation president, and I guess we have a new president now, but Karen Wagner certainly deserved her Legacy Service Award, and likewise Chaplain Negrete and his being honored, and then the 7 firefighters who basically did their job, but in Las Vegas at the time of the Las Vegas shooting. And again, amazing stories in terms of what they all did. And then and the firefighter Cresta in his saving the 3 kids on the 2nd floor in Wilmington. And apparently when he brought them out, they were unconscious, and he had no idea how they were going to do. But at the event, it was really, I thought, thrilling to see the mom and the 3 kids there attending the event. So, and then Air Ops likewise was honored. So just, very deserving awards, and I know you shared, Chief shared the fact that originally Karen had suggested this be a more regular event and everything, and Chief Terrazas finally grudgingly agreed maybe, and I think it definitely should be an annual event.
Mm-hmm. I concur with everything that Dr. Hara said. It was a wonderful event. I think it appeared to be larger than usual. I'm not sure that it was, but it was really well attended, and I congratulate all the awardees, but especially Chaplain Negrete and Karen Wagner, who do an outstanding job for this department. It's really beyond the call of duty, which is great. And all the other honorees were well deserving of their awards, and the Girl Camp founders also. And Chief, I have a concern that maybe we could address. This could be an issue for the commission. A few Sundays ago, we had 4 different sports events in the city of Los Angeles. I never paid attention to this before I became a fire commissioner, but emergencies now are at the top of my list. What do we do? So I'd like to know how we handle that and what we would do if there were emergencies in different areas of this, with the 4 different. I know we're proud to have all of our sporting groups here, but in the case of an emergency, what would we do if it was in more than one place?
So it sounds like it's something we should schedule for.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more on that.
On what your plans are for.
Otherwise, that's great. Thanks, everybody, for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. That's it. So moving on to report of the fire chief.
Thank you, Madam President. This last 2 weeks has been fairly quiet. The biggest event was the Medal of Valor award ceremony last Thursday. We had 500 people there at the Bonaventure. It was a luncheon, And I'm tremendously proud of all our members, but especially proud of the Medal of Valor recipients. We had the firefighter in Wilmington, Fire Station 38, Rio Beck Hernandez, who did save 3 young children from a residential structure fire. And then the rest of the Medal of Valor honorees were off duty in Las Vegas at the mass shooting. And to hear their stories was very compelling. We, as a fire department, don't go into hot zones where the shooting is active. We rely on LAPD to give us force protection, and we stay in the warm zone, and we do a good job at that. Now, off duty, it's a whole different ball game. You're off duty. You're there with your loved ones, enjoying a concert, and then all of a sudden there's a burst of gunfire, and a prolonged burst. And the stories, very similar, all of them, were that they took care of their loved ones, and then they ran back into fire to save others, people they didn't know, with no protection, no body armor, no LAPD. And they did what we expect our people to do. They relied on their training, their experience, and they put themselves in harm's way, and they saved literally tens, maybe hundreds of people cumulatively from potential death. And they couldn't save everybody. And they stepped up. Under the most trying circumstances, they stepped up, and I'm tremendously proud of them. And at the very end of the ceremony, they asked all their loved ones to join them on stage, and they had a banner from the Harvest Festival. And I realized at that point that this is the first time they'd been all together since that shooting. So they took a group photo, and it was very emotional for all of them on the stage. And I think it helped them. In a way, it was therapeutic to bring closure to that incident. But bottom line, it was a great event, and we definitely will do that every year. It's great to praise our people and to not only for their own personal acknowledgement, but for the benefit of the families, for the other firefighters at their fire stations. And I want the public to hear these stories, because they're amazing stories. When you think about in the last 4 years, how many times we're giving out medals for the shark bite near Australia, the high surf in Hawaii. Our people do some amazing things. So I'm very proud of that, and we'll continue to do that. That concludes my report.
Thank you. So, and now we have a verbal report by the medical director for medical emergencies from October 16th through November 5th. We don't have any significant incidents today.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dr. Mark Eckstein, Medical Director. Significant EMS report since our last meeting. I'll be brief today on October 30th in Fire Station 57's first in around 6:30 p.m. There was a 5-victim shooting as apparently a result of a drive-by shooting. Engine 57, Rescue 57 was able to quickly perform a triage and rapid treatment of these 5 victims to area hospitals. And fortunately, all victims survived. And good use of the START system and training with rapid treatment and triage. On October 31st, approximately 1 p.m., a woman called 911 stating her significant other was on the floor, who appeared to be suffering a seizure. This gentleman was 35 years old, and this is what we call a bread and butter type incident for our members, but it really demonstrates the strength of this chain of survival in our city. Using the tiered dispatch system, our dispatcher or call taker processed the call and dispatch resources in only 34 seconds with an active seizure. This fell under immediate dispatch category. For sake of comparison with our previous dispatch system that was in use prior to 2015, our average call processing time for a seizure was over 2 minutes. So the call was dispatched in 34 seconds. The call taker correctly identified that the victim had ineffective breathing. He provided dispatcher instructions for compression-only CPR, which the caller provided until Engine and Rescue 33 arrived on scene. They went ahead and took over CPR, defibrillated this gentleman, achieved return of spontaneous circulation, acquired a 12-lead EKG showing he was sustaining a STEMI or acute heart attack. Patient was then transported to the nearest STEMI receiving center where he underwent a cardiac cath and has a very favorable prognosis. So again, this successful call demonstrates the strength of each link in our chain of survival, starting with dispatch, involving the would-be rescuer, which was the caller, and also shows that a heart attack can occur at any age. This gentleman was only 35 years old and resulted in a life saved. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now moving on to presentations.
Good morning, Commissioners,
Morning.
Fire
Good
Chief
morning.
Terrazas, City Attorney Ms. Iniguez, Eric Scott, Fire Captain Paramedic and Public Information Officer. Today we are privileged to honor two LAFD members, father and son. They've had many years of exceptional professionalism and service as the department's historic bandwagon detail. So at this time, we'd like to ask retired firefighter Phil Wyereater and also Captain Cody Wyereater to please stand near the podium. Now, these two members do not look for personal recognition, but rather they continually look for positive recognition for the LAFD. Now, this story began back in 1978 when Phil was asked to drive an old fire engine that would be towing an even older steamer to a community event. And this was because Phil had a Class A commercial driver's license. Well, it was at that point that the Wyereater Community Service legacy was born. So you could see in this photo here the old engine. It's a 1931 Seagrave hose wagon. It's known as the department's bandwagon. It was actually in service to the city of Los Angeles from 1931 to 1965. And Phil would continue to drive the bandwagon to city, cultural, religious, department events and parades for the next 4 decades. And this tradition has been passed on to Cody. As you see here in this photo, you have Phil smiling, Cody very serious, holding onto his radio, calling it a water airdrop or something. But it's close to impossible to really identify the amount of hours that were volunteered from both Wyereaters that they have dedicated as ambassadors of our department. And as great ambassadors, it's also important to mention that both Wyereaters have served in the capacity of public information officers to represent our department as well. Now, many were surprised to learn that the only LAFD historical apparatus, the bandwagon, is still owned by the city of Los Angeles. And so many council members, fire commissioners yourselves, command staff, dignitaries, and yes, even Santa Claus have been passengers on the department's bandwagon. So even though Phil retired in 2013, we still can't quite get rid of him. But with the support of all the fire chiefs since his retirement, Phil has continued operating the bandwagon for parades and static displays across the city, along with Cody. And apparently the Wyereater clan is spawning there. As you see, we now have 3 generations. That's Phil, Cody, and their son Logan. And so it's apparent that bringing this historic apparatus to community events has truly become a family tradition. And the answer to this one question tells a lot. When asked why Cody or Phil would stand next to the bandwagon when it was a static display for 6 to 8 hours on a Saturday of their own time, they would smile and reply, "It's a win for the fire department. This apparatus opens the dialogue with the public. What started out as a question of how old the fire engine is normally ends with what the LAFD does to keep them safe." And at this point, we'd like to go ahead and read one certificate. In recognition and sincere gratitude for your many years of exceptional professionalism and service to the citizens of the City of Los Angeles, and for your outstanding performance as a member of the Los Angeles Fire Department's historic bandwagon detail, we commend you for your dedication, your hard work, and your positive and energetic attitude delivered during your career, which reflects well on the fire department. Your dedicated work, combined with your many significant achievements, have placed the Los Angeles Fire Department in a leadership position throughout the country. The Los Angeles Fire Department commends you for your commitment and extraordinary service to the citizens of Los Angeles, presented this 6th day of November 2018, Ralph M. Terrazas.
This was a surprise for Cody. He didn't know he was going to be recognized, so surprise. I think this is the first time we've recognized a father and a son. And every time we go to a parade, when I go to a parade or any of our commissioners, it's always comforting to know that either Cody or Phil is there. Because chances are they've probably driven that parade 10 times before. They know how to get us in and how to get us out, and they take care of the apparatus. And they're true ambassadors of the Los Angeles Fire Department. And then a few years ago, Cody asked me, could we get Phil a badge? And I think that was a surprise for Phil, that Cody was able to secure the badge. And I said, absolutely. Phil goes way above and beyond any retiree. He was a longtime member of our department. If you look at that last picture, the stripes on his shirt, I think, was there 8? 7? So that's at least 35 years. So we were very, very happy to recognize both of them, and I look forward to continuing to have them in that seat. And now I'd like to turn over the mic to Phil first for a few words.
Madam President, Commissioners, City Attorney Chief, thank you so very much. This is a very big honor to be recognized by the Commission. The last time I was here, I was a speaker in regards to the staffing of staff assistants and why we should not get rid of them. I thank you so very much because my family has been involved with the fire department for so many years. My wife Cheryl's here. She's a retired Los Angeles police officer. And my 2 brothers were also, one's a sheriff, one's an LAPD officer, also retired. And my family goes back in the city of Los Angeles 6 generations. My great-great-grandfather was the mayor of Los Angeles, a city attorney, also a state assemblyman. And the Del Valle family, which is my descendants here in Los Angeles from 1852, and we've been involved in the city of Los Angeles, and this is my city, and this is my family city, and this is our city. And we do everything we can to try to make the folks out there like us more, like we want to be, and also to pretend or to make sure that we are out there doing the best job we can. So I can just say thank you so very much. This was a surprise for Cody, but this is a very big honor for myself. But thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. Yes, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. Very unexpected, so thanks. And thanks for making, what right looks like, so thank you very much.
And the family, your wife, everybody.
Madam President?
Yes.
A comment. I say it's very fitting that Dr. Hara and I are here today because we are always their passengers, and we really appreciate the work and the service they provide for us because they're always just there on time. A bottle of water or whatever you need, they're always providing service all along the parade route. And so, I mean, I just enjoy the parade so much better knowing that the bandwagon is coming and that the wire readers will be there. So thank you so much for what you do.
Even I've been on the bandwagon.
Yeah, and likewise, my son Kyle and my granddaughter Briley, they always ask about, I wonder how Logan is doing.
That's sweet. Thank you so much. Okay. So let's move on to the consent agenda items. Do you want to move it?
Okay. I move the consent items A through F.
For A through F, do I have a second?
Second.
So all in favor?
Aye.
So then on the regular agenda items, the first item we're going to continue into the next meeting at the request of Commissioner Glazier. So we start with 5B, which is the report by the department on the Professional Standard Division update on Los Angeles Fire Department Mediation Pilot Program.
Good morning. I was hoping not to follow the children. Hard to beat that. I'm very adorable. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Fire Chief, Deputy City Attorney, Ms. Enriquez. Good morning to you, too. My name is Cynthia Hernandez. I am the new Chief Special Investigator. New, as in brand new, as in 3 months, new to the position. And I oversee the Professional Standards Division of the police department. No, not the police department. I'll have it. The fire department. As you mentioned on the agenda item today, I will be providing you an update. It's an update of the last update of the pilot program that we have. As you know, the pilot program, in collaboration with USC, we launched the program in April of last year, 2017. And since that time, the department has sent 6 cases to mediation. And in all of those cases, they were all member cases, and they all related to work environment issues. And in all of those cases, all the 6, we, post-mediation, acquired some positive feedback from the participants. The feedback we received, we acquired either through written surveys or in-person contact with the participants. I did want to add that in one of the cases, in one of the 6 cases, the participants mediated the case in November, which is almost a year ago to the date. We have to report that those participants recently refiled complaints against each other. We reached out to the participants to find out a little bit more. According to the participants, they reaffirmed that they had positive feedback regarding the mediation session. They added, in fact, that post-mediation, immediately following the mediation, that their communication between each other was positive and had improved. However, there were pending other work-related issues that just did not dissipate. So we are where we are now. Now, as the department, as overseeing this piece of the mediation pilot program, we're taking this as lessons learned and what can we learn from this one case. So we're going to look at the case a little bit closer. One of the things we're looking at is assessing whether there are ways in which we can strengthen the durability of the mediation sessions themselves. And we could talk about that a little later if you like. But now what I'd like to talk about is moving forward. So moving forward with the program means basically phasing out the pilot program eventually. So looking forward, that's what we want to do. I think that's what we have, our aspirations. Our goal is to phase out the pilot program and instead have a formalized program with USC. And how that will look was we would essentially formalize that, memorializing the program in a formal letter of agreement with law school, USC. Now, as we move forward towards that plan and our goal, the department is seeking input, of course, from many stakeholders. One of the stakeholders that we're interested in learning about their feedback and their contributions is the independent assessor. So we have had ongoing conversations with the independent assessor, and we continue to have those, and we'll look forward to those recommendations and input. The department also plans to meet with other stakeholders, including UFLAC. We're pleased to say that UFLAC has been supportive of the pilot program. We look forward to continued support, continued conversations, and their input regarding a formalized program with a letter of agreement, not with UFLAC, but of course with USC. We think that's an important process to get the feedback of UFLAC and independent assessor and other stakeholders. Ultimately, the goal, as I said, is to phase out the pilot program. We're looking right now at formalizing and executing a letter of agreement at the end of 2019. At this point, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah. So, how do they get prepared to go into the mediation once they decide they want to do it?
I'm very happy you asked that question. Essentially, I'll back up a little bit. So the cases that were referred to the USC pilot program and the clinic there at the USC Law School, they were flagged by PSD, the division itself. Since we are sort of the housing of all the complaints that are filed internally, we're at an advantage to see what cases and participants would most benefit from that program. So once we identify the participants or a case, then we refer the case to mediation. At that point, there's scheduling. Currently, the department has the onus of scheduling that mediation with the mediators at USC. And the mediation itself is confidential, so any conversation that happens during that session is confidential. Our understanding is at the end of a mediation session that there is an agreement between the parties. And we're not exposed to that mediation agreement currently.
I'm sorry, you're not exposed to it?
We don't have access to it because it's all confidential. So we know that there is agreement between the parties at the end of a session of what sort of behavior is going to be conformed or reformed and how they will engage with each other at that point forward.
But you have access to the confidentiality agreement that they enter into, right?
I'm sorry?
The confidentiality agreement that they enter into in order to go, you have access to that.
We don't, because it is a confidentiality agreement. Everything that was discussed during the session typically is memorialized in an agreement between the parties.
Yeah, so that's at the end.
That is at the end.
But at the beginning, we do have a standard confidentiality agreement.
We do. The participants understand that a condition of participating, and I think it's important to emphasize this part, that I think if people knew that it wasn't confidential, that we'd have very little interest in the program. So, and typically mediation sessions are confidential. So we have not deviated from what is universally accepted out in the universe of mediation protocol.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
Do they go with representation or do they go by themselves?
They don't. As far as we know, I don't think they would be excluded from saying, someone bringing someone else. Right now, that is not a consideration. Going forward, whether or not they can bring a representative, we're still in the process of discussing some of those conditions.
Okay, so they just go on their own.
They go on their own. The two participants meet. The mediation session itself, there are two individuals overseeing the session. So one is a licensed mediator through the school, and then there's a student who's actually trying to get their degree or certification of the program.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so their job is to get them to listen to each other?
Yes, you know, I hate to overpromise and then underdeliver later, but some of the things going forward in our process of sort of lessons learned from the process now in the pilot program, we are considering things that we can improve upon. So, for example, in order for the department to fully understand the success of the pilot program or any other program coming forward, we'd have to elicit feedback from the participants themselves. So what we've learned is going forward, that would be a condition upon entering the mediation session, is that the participants agree that post-mediation they would actually be mandated to fill out a survey. So our goal now is to sort of look at the survey, the template, and figure out what kind of information is helpful for us to know about the program.
Okay. And do people not want to go or reject your suggestion they go to mediation?
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that question. That's something we contemplate a lot because we obviously want it to be successful, and the measure of that is the interest level. We did have two cases, meaning 4 participants, one or both decline to participate in the program. I think part of it is that it's a new program. People are unaware of what it is, what's expected, the outcome. So some of those things will be rolling out in a portal message to sort of describe what the criteria is and what the conditions are if they choose to enter. Again, it is not mandatory. It is completely voluntary.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could add something to that, the participants are not prevented from filing a formal complaint if this doesn't work. So there's really no downside to participating. And this is an effort to assist our supervisors, and we've promoted hundreds of new supervisors in the last 4 years who may not have the experience of dealing with conflict in the workplace. So we provided conflict resolution training to our chiefs. We've implemented this pilot. I'm glad to see that we're moving on to a formal mediation program. We've been rolling out the implicit bias training. A lot of these things are designed to help our supervisors in the field. The vast majority of our issues in the fire stations are relatively minor. And I believe that this program offers another new tool to supervisors who need that extra help to resolve issues within their fire stations. So very proud of the success that you've had so far. Looking forward to greater success moving forward.
I appreciate it. Just want to add one more thing about just to piggyback on the fire chief's comment. In the pilot program that we've rolled out, we have a list of lessons learned. So this going into the discussions about a formal agreement, we have had numerous conversations with other agencies who have tested this type of model out already. So they've sort of tested the model out. We're sort of gaining experience, learning from what their potholes were, and so we can avoid those potholes as well. I do want to emphasize that the case that fell out of mediation, we strongly recommend you don't look at that as a failure of the program. It's just a small sample. The 2 participants have had a history of work-related issues, and maybe the takeaway from that is that one session isn't enough. It's just the beginning of a conversation.
Yes, often you need more than one session
That's
for
right.
mediation.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Move to receive and file item 5B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moving on to 5B is the report by the
C.
5C, sorry. Report by the department on the Cuba update, second and third quarters.
Good morning, Chief Terrazas, Commissioners, Madam President, and Deputy City Attorney Rafish. My name is Roy Song, the Cooper Program Manager for the Fire Prevention Bureau. Today I'm providing an update on the Cooper inspection progress for the second and third quarters from April 1st through to September 30th. The four programs being revised today are the Hazardous Materials and Business Emergency Response Program, the Underground Storage Tank Program, the California Accident and Release Prevention Program, and the Above-Ground Storage Tank Program. So as far as program inspections go, we're well on track, basically with all the programs. We met or exceeded our inspection goals, 3 of the 4 of them. The CalArp program reached 67%, but the key point here is that we got all the inspections that were due for this year, and it's never fallen behind, and it won't, so there'll be no issues with that program. As far as overdue inspections, we only have a handful, 25 to 35, in 2 of the different programs, and that's a really good figure, considering we have 7,500 facilities that we inspect every year, and where we were, back in 2014. So that's I'm really happy with that progress. As far as enforcement goes, pretty steady with enforcement. We typically do around 16 to 18 cases over 2 quarters, and that's what we've done exactly this time. Penalties came to $260,000 and $200 in penalties, which is really helpful for the Coopers. They allow us to get vehicles and resources we need to run that program. As far as staffing level goes, we have 38 staff on the book. We have 28 actually with us. The reason being we have 5 new classifications going through civil service approval, so that'll be a little while yet. And then we have 2 staff that are IOD, and then 3 vacancies in the admin clerk classification. So in summary, I'm very happy with the program. It's been very consistent the last couple of quarters. We got our staffing back to where it should be, and I think progress is good, and I'm happy. So any questions?
No, we're very happy with tremendous turnaround in Coupa and continued, to staying on top of this. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good job. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, move to receive and file, item 5C.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So 5D is report by the department on the fire prevention inspection activity for the third quarter of calendar year 2018.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chief Terrazas, Ms. Rafish, Seba, Assistant Fire Marshal Roy Harvey, Fire Prevention Bureau. I'm here to report on the third quarter fire prevention activity. Pretty much the report is really good news. The inspectors have done a good job. We're on track to get 100% in nearly every unit with a couple of exceptions. I want to start off by talking about the 2 exceptions. The Harbor Industrial Commercial and the West Industrial Unit. We're still facing a few challenges in Harbor. What we've done to correct the shortfall is we detailed another industrial commercial inspector to be trained in oil wells, which makes up a large portion of what's happening in the harbor. That inspector is already trained in industrial commercial inspections, and he was detailed to provide some workload relief. Unfortunately, the unit that he left to make up in the harbor, we had an inspector go off with an IOD injury, which put them at a deficit of 2 inspectors. So we had to detail him back, but he has been trained now. So going forward, what we're going to do is reassign him a portion of the city near his regular district to handle those oil wells, and then we're going to reassign some of his regular inspections to other industrial commercial inspectors. Basically moving chess pieces around to try to make up for a lack of manpower. In the West Industrial Commercial Unit, we've also did 20% instead of 25% for the quarter, but we were already behind. What we're doing now to address that is we are training a second inspector for the airport, and we're going to divide the airport among 2 inspectors and try to distribute some of the other inspections from West LA to other industrial commercial inspectors to help lighten that load. Eventually, we're going to have to address the staffing issue. We literally don't have enough inspectors to do the inspections. Is what it's come out to be. West Industrial Commercial, we didn't have any inspectors off IOD or NIOD. Previously, we thought that the staffing issues were the problem, but now that we've had a quarter with no vacancies, we realize that it's literally a manpower issue. So for now, we're going to be moving chess pieces, but unfortunately, West LA and Harbor Industrial, we have more seasoned inspectors, and they value their time off more than working overtime opportunities on their days off, because what we were doing is carrying vacant districts in each of those units and then providing the overtime opportunities to the inspectors. The inspectors haven't been that interested in working, so we haven't made up the difference. Some of the successes that we've done above and beyond the regular inspection workload, the R1, R2 program is really standout. In Battalion 18, for example, we completed 8,283 inspections. In Battalion 11, 7,117 inspections. And in Battalion 13, 563 R1, R2 inspections. Also, at the start of this year, we started the Fire Prevention Bureau referral program. We processed 114 FPB referrals, which is outstanding because now we know that the field realizes that we're a partner and we're here to help them. And then when they come across complex occupancies that they need our help on, they can refer it to us and we'll help them out. And we also processed 14 illegal habitation complaints. So we had a successful third quarter. We are addressing a couple of shortfalls, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I was wondering if when we developed the cannabis unit, did that take inspectors away from other areas, or did we hire new people?
Oh, no. Actually, we have new people for the cannabis unit. We have currently 4 inspectors and a captain. We're in the process of hiring the clerical to support that unit. And as we speak, 3 of the members are up in Folsom getting some training that's put on by the state. So we're being successful with that. Cannabis is a new program citywide. So some of the issues that we're dealing with are all new issues. And we basically put the spot fires out as they come up. And but so far we're successful. We've had great outreach to the business community. We have good relationships with some of the more established occupancies. And I think we're going to be really successful with that.
That's good. That's very good. I think we still have a problem with the illegal businesses, but that's another issue that we'll deal with another time.
That's the LAPD.
And the city attorney and a whole lot of other people. But so therefore you didn't move people to cannabis from the regular inspections?
No,
okay.
They're
okay.
specifically for cannabis.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Just great job. Very proud of the members in the Fire Prevention Bureau. As you fine-tune and you're identifying issues, you're keeping us informed through yourself and Chief Crowley. In the fiscal year 1920 budget, we're asking for another oil well inspector in the harbor to help that unit maintain the pace with the workload. We're also asking for 2 homeless encampment brush inspectors because initially when that got started, we were detailing from other units. But we've identified that that problem's not going away anytime soon. We need to have a constant presence of our people. Right now we're relying on people who are on light duty, undergoing rehabilitation until they go back to the fire station. But every time they go back, we have to train somebody else up. So we are supporting the Bureau, and we look forward to their continued performance, and we'll fill in the gaps wherever we find them as we proceed.
When they do the homeless inspections, are they assisted by the LAPD?
Our role in that process is to identify the locations and then turn the information over to the Homeless Response Center. And then LAPD and the LA Department of Sanitation go out, as well as LAHSA, the Homeless Services Authority. The LAHSA social worker tries to work with the individual to get them into some sort of long-term housing program. LAPD is there if they don't willingly comply, and sanitation's there to remove their personal belongings if they cannot do that on their own.
But on the initial inspection, our inspectors just go in alone?
Our inspectors just identify the location, and that's the extent of their participation.
They just identify them.
Yep.
They don't go in and inspect. They don't inspect the areas.
No, the brush inspectors normally inspect brush areas. On red flag days, those are the days that are high hazard because of the potential for a brush fire. We just recently implemented the process of our brush patrols identifying, doing windshield surveys. Brush patrols are staffed by 2 firefighters usually. They drive a truck and they drive in the district. And they're looking specifically for homeless encampments in the brush. Last year for the Screwball Fire, that was the start of the Screwball Fire. So we're trying to be proactive and stay ahead of it and prevent that from happening.
So since this is a new program and we haven't heard about it, can you guys come back and give us a report about that new division that you guys have for that? Because we've read about it in the paper, but we haven't actually been briefed. So yeah, let's do that.
And I was just concerned about the safety of inspectors, but since they don't go into the homeless encampments, they just identify them, I guess it's okay.
I shared your concern. When we did this initially after the Screwball Fire, we made sure that they were always in pairs, that they did not engage. They would identify and then communicate the information, and actually advance our technology too. They were using the iPads, and by just touching on the iPad, they could provide a GPS location, and that get communicated to the resource center. So it really actually pushed us in certain ways to advance our technology.
That's good. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. And good job with the inspections. Thank you. So that is for 5D.
Move to receive and file, item 5D.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So 5E is report by the Operations West Bureau and its 2018 year-end review overview.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam President, members of the Fire Commission, Chief Terrazas, Attorney Rafish, Ms. Inez, and to the management and staff of the LAFD. My name is Armando Hogan, and I serve as the Deputy Chief in charge of Operations West Bureau. My purpose here today is to share with you our most recent successes, challenges, and future forecasts for service provided in West Bureau. However, I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to introduce the members of the West Bureau staff who are in attendance here today. So if I may, and I'll start what would be to your far left, is this gentleman who works for a professional standards division, but he is our liaison. And since he has been working with us, he has, our numbers were at about 18 to 22 in terms of complaints. We are now hovering at a nice 4 to 5. And working on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Jaime Salcedo.
Okay, very good.
That lovely lady sitting next to him is our management analyst. That's Nancy Ballett. And this gentleman, who retired from the Monrovia Fire Department, who works as our EMS educator. He understands the culture. He is great going into a fire station. There's nothing that they can pull over on him. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Ben Esparza. And then the young lady here who was formerly at the shops, and we stole her from the shops to bring her over to West Bureau, so we're happy to have her, and that's Miss Victoria Johnson. And then this gentleman that you'll hear from later is our training support specialist, Mike Johnson. So with that, Operations West Bureau is roughly 100 square miles, about 95, but we give or take another 5 square miles. It serves 4 council districts, collaborates with nearly 25 neighborhood councils, and countless homeowners associations and community representatives. This has been a year of innovation as we utilize technology with the drone program, the metrics provided through FireStat to aid in resource deployment, and to maximize our service continuum based on the needs of the surrounding communities. With over 227,000 incident responses and increased construction in Hollywood, West LA, Westchester, and of course the Los Angeles World Airport, we are continually challenged with a growing and diverse landscape. In West Bureau, we are fortunate to have 4 variably staffed resources that provide service for 10 hours per day, which allow us to study and measure the effectiveness of our deployment. RA 805, as you see there, is staffed 3 times per week on a Sunday, Monday, and Friday, and responds out of Fire Station 5 and averages around 5 runs per shift during that 10-hour stand. RA 862, which is new, we got it in 2018, is staffed 4 times per week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and averages nearly 6 responses per shift. This is going to be a very versatile resource for us because it's going to assist. We almost consider it a seasonal resource where we can use it at Venice Beach during the high tourist times. And then once school begins and the traffic at Venice Beach begins to die down, we can utilize it in other areas. So it is becoming and proving to be very effective. And then Rescue 882 is staffed 3 times per week on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and averages around 5 responses per day. Commissioner Glazer shared with me that he wanted that to be a 24-hour resource, so he and I are talking about that, but I'm going to go through the metrics with him to show how we determine the feasibility and viability of having a 24-hour resource. And then lastly, APRU 82 is not in service due to staffing. However, that is being addressed, so we're looking forward to getting that staffed. This slide just gives you a 1-month snapshot of the information we compile to determine the feasibility of the resource. So, for example, if you look there, this is something that we keep there in the office that gives us an idea. So looking at 805 for the month of October, it was only staffed 5 times, and then there was no hires for 7. So it allowed us to go and look into why is that occurring. So the reason for that is because originally 805 was just dedicated to the central terminal area at LAX. And because there's badging issues and because members felt like they couldn't go to other incidents because they had to continually be in the CTA, it was a little discouraging. Also, we started that resource at 10 a.m. and kept it to 2,000 hours. One of the suggestions was let's move it to 8 a.m. so that folks would be coming from another assignment. They can roll right there to Fire Station 5. So we're in the process of looking at those measurements as we speak. But this gives us a better idea when I speak and discuss with Chief Poyer to get a better idea of how we're looking at the resources and what are those times, those viable times that we need them to provide service. LAX continues to be the #1 West Coast terrorist target and serves as an economic engine for the city of Los Angeles. Our cycle teams provide 20 hours of service per day, 7 days a week. That begins at 0500 hours until 1500, and then the second shift, or that PM shift, begins at 1400. That way from 1400 to 1500, we have that 1 hour opportunity for them to do a proper relief and then be prepared to continue to provide service. And they work until midnight. If you look at some of the things that are taking place at LAX, we don't call it an expansion because folks in that community would be up in arms about that. So this is a modernization project. So if you look at the $14 billion capital improvement program, which basically is going to increase in terms of rail service coming into the community. They're building more parking areas, and they're interacting more with the rental car areas and so forth to make it more accessible throughout. When we talk about the midfield satellite concourse, we're also looking at where can we put fire stations? How is that going to impact our ability to respond not only into the CTA, but also out onto the airfield? And then the Landside Access Modernization Project, which I mentioned, talks about the people movers getting people to and from without bringing heavy congestion of vehicles into the central terminal area. And I put this slide up particularly for Commissioner Jimmy Woods Gray. The last time we were in front of you, ma'am, you wanted to know a little bit more about what we were doing and also what we were doing for the elderly. So I wanted to make you aware of that we're working with Dr. Annette Lewis, who used to be with the Department of Aging. She is now with MySafe LA, neighborhood councils, and also currently the Department of Aging to determine how we can best provide service to our population. We looked at 3 different ways. One of the ways we looked at was possibly putting some sort of marker on a door, so in times of a disaster of some sort, that we can go and know that there's an elderly person there. However, bad folks or individuals with bad intentions will look at that as an opportunity to take advantage of someone. So we didn't want to do that. So where we are now is through our CERT program is basically asking the community members, the block captains, to identify those spots, to reach out to family members. Because a lot of our folks who are aging are very proud. They don't want assistance or support in certain ways. So we're looking to see how can we best sit down with them. But my concern, because we're looking at community evacuation plans, is how are we going to be able to get folks from point A to point B safely, and how can we best educate them to be better prepared? So I wanted you to just be aware of what we're doing in that regard, and that will continue because also with the PALA initiative for the Purposeful Aging initiative that has come forth, we'll be working with that to see how we can best continue outstanding service.
Very good.
And this slide is just to show you our response totals and the breakdown of EMS versus non-EMS incidents. And as we went back the last time we were in front of you was probably March of 2017 and up till September of 2018, and that's where we got our statistical data just to give you an idea. But all of those responses are equally as important, whether, as you can see, the overwhelming slice is the EMS portion, but also our non-EMS. And what we do when we get our variably staffed resources, that lets us know that we're doing a better job of keeping those resources for the non-EMS available for those immediate responses, whether those are the truck responses or things of that nature. So that way we've got a resource that is available to address that issue. And then our smoke alarm canvassing program. As you can see there, we go out about 4 times of pre-planned events. We go out on a quarterly basis. And then also, after there is a tragedy of some sort, we're trying to avoid that. We want to try to get out ahead of that. So as you can see here, we interact with the community and we look to see what are their needs, what would they like to do. So this portion is included when we go out to the neighborhood councils to have discussions. What do we need to do from a preventative standpoint, and how can we make people more aware of our program? As I mentioned earlier, Ben Esparza has just been outstanding with our post-incident reviews. They are conducted on a regular basis, and this has helped to improve the service we provide through an honest assessment of what we can do better. And Ben continually gets out ahead, and we don't make it a threatening environment. We want folks to understand and learn, but it is an honest assessment of what we can do better when we talk about providing service. In OWB, we understand the importance of fostering strong political relationships with Council Districts 4, 5, 11, and 13. So these relationships allow us to better educate our elected officials on what we do and why we do it, and also we can get their input from what they're hearing from their other constituents in and around the community. So with that, I'd like to transition to discuss our training and technology. I would ask Captain Mike Johnson, who serves as our training support specialist, to come to the podium to continue our presentation.
Good morning, Madam President,
Good morning.
members of the Commission, Chief Terrazas, Attorney Radfish, and management staff. My name is Mike Johnson, and I'm the Training Support Specialist for Operations West Bureau. I'm very fortunate to be assigned to this bureau, and I want to thank Chief Hogan for his continued guidance and support. I'd like to now express how the training and technology has been incorporated into the West Bureau. Training and technology is such a critical component to providing exceptional service to the citizens of Los Angeles. It is from the training that prepares our members to handle the emergency and non-emergency incidents that they respond to on a daily basis. Before I discuss the training that the West Bureau performs, I'd like to explain the technology. Excuse me here. There we go. I'd like to express the technology that we have in place to assist us to assure that the continuity of coverage throughout the department and allows for both our battalion commanders and station commanders to forecast training needs for their members. The calendar on the left there is a Google-based and allows for this to be viewed throughout the department by any member. As you can see in the calendar, on that calendar, on the top line, each bureau is highlighted with the different color, West Bureau being in blue. Each bureau is given a minimum of 2 to 3 segments each month to be used for both routine and required training. My responsibility is to enter this training into a master calendar, which is reflected there on the right. The numbers that you'll see located on the very top allows us to ensure that the maximum allotted numbers for companies that are training will never compromise the continuity of coverage to the city. Additionally, one of my additional responsibilities is to review various emergency incidents that have occurred in the West Bureau each day. If any training needs or trends are identified, I bring them to Chief Hogan's attention, then utilize this calendar to assist me in scheduling companies for post-incident critiques as well as training opportunities. One of my primary training responsibilities is conducting trunk top training that occurs twice a month at LAX. Los Angeles International Airport is one of the primary targets for both domestic and international terrorism. Since the last active shooter that occurred in November of 2013, the need to continuously train with other agencies has become more apparent. My responsibility is to create various scenarios relating to active shooters, suspicious packages, ramming incidents, earthquakes, protests, as well as plane incidents. I develop the radio injects as well as facilitate the schedule and facilitate the training. This training brings 18 different agencies together in a unified command, establishes objectives, and coordinate both the command and tactical operations of these incidents. The importance of fostering relationships and identifying with the members of the other agencies has truly made an impact on some of the incidents that have already occurred over at LAX. These agencies include Airport PD, LAPD, Airport Operations, Customs, TSA, as well as the FBI. Very proud to say that because of the success of this training, we've expanded and now conducting this training over at at Van Nuys Airport as well. This training has also allowed us to train with several of our community stakeholders, as well as the state and federal levels agencies. The West Bureau has conducted 2 active shooter drills at both Loyola Marymount University and a large-scale MCI incident at the VA property in Westwood. It is from the success of these training exercises that the West Bureau has recently met with the Los Angeles School Police Department in order to bring this training into our high schools to educate our youth on how to survive. We have met with John Marshall High School and have plans on providing the training to that school in the very, very near future. Some of the training is continuous and conducted quarterly to our chief officers and company officers, including annual first responder to hazmat, annual brush training, EEO, human trafficking, and domestic violence. But as the training and education is also conducted to the community as well, and Chief Hogan will now discuss the community involvement in regards to how we educate that community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Johnson. Our community relations are the foundation for service. By working with the community and gathering their input, we gain their trust to form a partnership. One of the things we've done in the past is kind of told the community what to do and expected them to be able to do it. Now that we get everyone's handprint on that document, they are more inclined to be more receptive to what we're doing because they feel as though that they play a huge role in this. So this interaction is vital for us to meet their needs. OWB is actively involved in addressing the homeless challenges we face. In addition, that we're working closely with fire prevention on this. So I want to thank Chief Crowley and Chief Harvey for their assistance. And we also go to Venice Forward because of the large homeless population that we have moving towards Venice Beach. And then also working with the department, DMH, because what we have found is that the more agencies that we work with, we probably have a lot of similar problems. So in the effort to not continue to just be redundant and not see any fruit bared from that, what we're doing is working more closely in those partnerships. And I have 2 members that aren't here today. My Assistant Bureau Commander, Orrin Saunders, who is enjoying himself fishing in Cabo somewhere, and then Kevin Johnson, who is also enjoying vacationing with his family. But they both oversee these programs as it relates to that. So what we have done is establish single points of contact on all our areas of concern, and that way we get a more focused area of attention on those in terms of what we need to do and what are some of the best ways for us to go about it. Hands-only CPR. we have established a cadre to maintain the momentum that we have. And if you see there, you can look at its the curriculum development. It is we built a database to collect and analyze the metrics, and it's outstanding for our individuals to be able to get into the schools and catch people at a young age, because a lot of them, when they take this home, can share this with family, can share this with friends, and most importantly, have an idea of what to do. Even if they panic as it relates to providing hands-only CPR, they still know to pick up the phone, call 911, and we talk them through that entire process. And this slide just represents the areas of impact on the map, meaning irrespective of where they are taught the CPR, this is the areas in the community that they take them to. So for example, they could go to school in the inner city, but they may live someplace else, and we have seen through surveys that they take that information out and then they're educating other folks. So this is becoming a huge force multiplier for us. So that's what I talk about when we look at momentum. In the near future, we will introduce our newsletter, which will be known as the West Express, for more training with partner agencies that we will continue to do, as well as work with our community customers. So thank you so much, and I'll take any questions that you may have.
Oh, thank you very much for the report. It seems very thorough, and I commend you on the work with the students. That's a lifelong learning that they're beginning with there, and they can carry that for the rest of their life and help other people. So that's really a great thing to do. And I've seen your CERT program, one of the graduations I attended, so I know that there's a huge amount of community people that meet there. They enjoy that space too, they said, for their meetings, and then to see them graduate, and they were very involved. That was good. And I particularly like the neighborhood council participation, because that's a real source of information and resource that for any organization in our community. I had a question about the risk management systems. Battalion 5 seems to always have more incidents than other groups. Why is that?
Well, because that's a very diverse area, because remember, we have continual tourism. For example, at Venice Beach, which is a strong tourist hold, it's usually more of the summertime months that you have something. Hollywood Boulevard is year-round. So we usually have a lot of folks that will call in third party, because when they come from different countries, they're not always accustomed to seeing people laying down on the street. So that's why we get more calls in that particular area. And then also that is right adjacent to our hillside and canyon communities. So there are a lot of things that are going on in that area, and then you incorporate the homeless issues with that. That adds to the increase in the call load.
Oh, I see. Okay, I just noticed that it was much more than the other two battalions.
Yes, I won't tell them that, though, because then they'll have an attitude. So.
Thank you very much for the work you guys are doing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you
Great
all
job.
very much.
Okay.
We have to move that one.
So we don't need to
No.
move it? No.
No, it's no receive. It's just no.
So now moving on to 5F, which is the report by the department on Los Angeles Fire Department Recruit Training Academy overview.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Madam
Morning.
President, Chief Terrazas, City Attorney Rafish, Commissioners,
Good
Ms.
morning.
Iniguez, and command staff. The board report, Los Angeles Fire Department Recruit Training Academy overview, is being presented approximately 1 year after the initial report. It reflects the data and analysis from the time a recruit enters the academy through the end of probation. Included in the report are tables, charts, and timelines. The data parameters to ensure consistency in presentation include new hires, graduates, and those that have completed probation. And just as a reminder, the timeline to complete a full data set from one academy class takes approximately 1.5 years. I'll just provide just a few highlights, including our 2017 Academy Action Plan goals against our performance for the last year. The end status includes all data fields, new hires, graduates, and completed probation. There were 6 classes that met these parameters. And it was found that we had an 83% academy retention rate at graduation, and the probationary retention rate remained very high at 97%. I was just at the academy the other day, this past Friday, and the academy instructors and staff, they're really doing a phenomenal job for us out there. We at training, we're extremely proud of them and the work that they are doing. If you look at the ongoing status in your report, it measures 5 academy classes and includes 2 of the 3 data fields, new hires and graduates. This population of recruits, they have graduated the academy, but they are still progressing through their probationary period. And just a couple of highlights from that section. The diversity in the academy remains very consistent from the time of hire through the end of graduation. And our female representation totaled 9% of new hires, which is a 50% increase since the 2017 report. The current academy section includes just 1 academy class, and they are progressing well and in alignment with our incremental improvements. The report also includes an analysis of our goals set forth in the 2017 Academy report, and I'll just review them against our performance during the past year. Goal 1 was to increase female recruit firefighter retention at graduation by 5%. Happy to report that the analysis revealed that there was a 6% net gain since the previous reporting period. This is definitely a result of the department's efforts and the action plan as discussed, and it really speaks to the candidate preparation by means of physical fitness and knowledge of tools and equipment that are very apparent in the candidate advancement program. Goal 2 was to increase recruit firefighter retention at graduation by 2%. In reviewing and analyzing the data, we went from 81% to 83% in meeting this goal. Goal number 3 was to increase the CAP attendance by 5%. After this analysis, it was found that there was an increase of actually 53%, which was very, very high. This participation, if you look in your reports, it extended to both the male and female population. They both increased greatly. And we attribute this success to our increased messaging, which includes email, social media, and the like, and also increasing candidate capacity at our various locations. Goal number 4 is to reduce the injury rate in the academy by 2%. And when you look at the reporting as compared to the most recent, we went from 13% down to 11%, again meeting our goal. And just for context, just so when we're talking about actual people, that means out of the entire year there were 4 male and 1 female that was injured during the entire year. Okay, it's clearly evident through the assessment of data and academy records that the academy enhancements have really been invaluable to the recruits to understand the firefighter position, the requirements, and the academy curriculum to maintain strength and stamina, and obviously to reduce injuries. We will definitely continue to build upon this as we have set new goals for this next rating period. And just some of the things that are not in the report that we've recently implemented is the baseline fitness test, which is basically scheduled pre-employment. And we also have a practical application assessment, which is actually within the academy and has the same direct methodology specific to the CAP program on improving our candidates and the recruits in the future. All of that information will be included on the next report, And just for the commissioner's information, Drill Tower 40, they officially closed their doors in July of this year. I'd definitely like to thank the staff for the pride demonstrated and the hard work performed at that facility. They really did a great job out there. Additionally, I'd like to thank all the commissioners, just for your continued interest in the Recruit Training Academy and how we are improving against our performance goals and measurements. And a special thanks to, I know she's not here, but Commissioner Ninberg and to Commissioner Woods Gray. Thank you guys for meeting with us and just to be able to discussing the training academy, the methodology or strategies, the history, recommendations and expectations. So thank you very much. That concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
The retention of females and others, when they drop out of the academy, one that lost 15 and another was 6. Do we do any studies to figure out why we lost these people, or if what happened along the way? I mean, is there any data that we can get so we know what happened?
Yes,
how we can help to improve on that particular.
Yes, we look at that quite intently, and there are several reasons. I mean, it can be strength and stamina. Some people just leave. It may not be in that section, but some people leave for personal reasons. And then there are others that don't perform up to a certain level, but they are reassigned. And so there's a couple of sections in there where I did mention the reassignment. So even though there were like 11 that left, there are still 4 that are still in the game there that are either at the academy now or will be reassigned to another class. So that's a matter in which we actually bolster our retention rates.
I do like that the part where they reassign when people are injured or whatever, they do get a chance to come back, and still some of them have even graduated. So that's really good. I was just concerned about that, the retention and the information that maybe we could talk about it later, that we could gather on why we lose so many women in one place or another over the years, and what we can do to try to help with in that particular area. But I thank you for the report, and thanks for the work that you're doing in the recruitment department.
Likewise, thank you, and I move to receive and file.
Oh, I actually had a couple more questions.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Can we look at 1.1, which is your little chart?
1.1, sure.
Yeah. So I was curious about this because you broke it down for, so you have one chart for like 2014 to 2016, the classes?
Yes.
And then you have a smaller one for 2015 to 2016. And then, and so here, like the female population does a lot better.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that makes me wonder, like, what happened at 2014 that dragged down the number at 20, do you know what I mean?
Well, the one above is the aggregate of all 12 classes.
Yeah.
And so that's just a balance between all the classes as seen on the previous page. So that's of all the classes, and the 6 classes is the most recent 6
Right.
classes, right?
Right. So, but women performed a lot better. It goes up to 70%.
Yes.
When you look at just the more recent ones.
The 6 classes, that's correct.
The 6 more recent. Mm-hmm. So then I'm wondering if there was a problem, like in 2014. You know what I mean?
It was that was from the previous report. So the previous report.
Oh, the report from last year.
Yes. So that's
right.
that's the 57%, and then this is the 70%, which in the middle 63%. So that's the aggregate of all 12.
So these are. So then your report is just the ones that we didn't cover last year.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what the smaller chart is about.
Yes, it's
the
for
1.11.
Yes, I just I wanted to be able to give you a snapshot of everything we've done, and then what we've done just this past reporting period.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then, but you also have even more recent classes at the end, right?
Yes, those are the ongoing. Those are the ones that are still on probation.
Okay.
Yes.
So we don't have final numbers. So.
No final numbers on those yet.
So they're just interesting numbers. It's hard to know why, they're different. But I found it very useful, and thank you, because this has been like a multi-year project for you, going through these numbers. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to add my comments to that, too. I do think that's very in-depth analysis When I look at the action plan goals, the 4 that you highlighted, we did show improvement, especially in the CAP participation. We were shooting for 5%, and you achieved 53%. I think in general, it shows a steady improvement across the board because we're getting smarter about this. We're preparing our candidates better. And we're seeing the effects of that in our report. So keep up the good work. We're very proud of what you've accomplished, and I look forward to continued progress.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, once again, move to receive and file.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we're at public comment, and we have one public comment. It's from Ryan Quigley from LAFD Fire Station 96.
96.
96.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ryan Quigley. I'm a firefighter paramedic at Fire Station 96 in Chatsworth. Thank you for this opportunity, as I know that you infrequently do not hear from the field and get our perspective. I would like to bring awareness to one situation where newly trained paramedics are placed in the field with no direct supervision and guidance. First, let me explain how a probationary firefighter enters the field. This member is not placed with another inexperienced firefighter, but under the direct supervision of a captain, a rated member in the form of an engineer or AO, and another firefighter. This provides the necessary safety and needs for the probationary member, the crew, and the public. This is not the case with a newly trained paramedic. Instead, just as I have recently experienced, we're sending unexperienced paramedics to busy assignments with another inexperienced individual. This is not a once-in-a-while occurrence, but a known common practice. This is why Battalion 13 has a greater frequency of complaints and bad outcome calls. We are setting our members up for failure, and there's no direct supervision, or more importantly, no mentorship. The solution is there. It has been attempted in the past, but we're at a new level of understanding and progression in our EMS delivery. We need a new level of mentorship in the form of a field training officer, advanced paramedic, or a lead paramedic. We have members that volunteer for such a program, as we found in the summer of 2017, detailing of members from slower assignments to busier assignments. Members like Troy Westbrook and Dan Moore were mentors in this 9-month period. We need more, and I'll even offer my own services to be detailed for 2 to 4 months to mentor and develop such a program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. So something to think about. All right, so now we can adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye. I so